Hi everyone, once again welcome back to the Banajawad online classes. In my earlier lecture, I have explained to you about the muscles, muscle structure and the mechanism of contraction of the muscle. So we are studying the main topic, locomotion and movement. So the second half of this chapter, that is after knowing the muscles, after knowing about the muscles and muscle contraction, next part is skeletal system. So we know that skeletal system is very important. Just think about a body without any bones, how it would be. If a human being has no bone at all in the body, his body will be like a sack. And just lift the sack like this, how are you? And then I have to leave it, isn't it? So we could be just rolling on that ground. So skeletal system, that is the hard structure, bony structure in our body, which supports our body, gives us the posture and supports our internal organs, protects our internal organs and allow movements. Okay, such a hard structure inside the body, if it is there, we call it as endoskeleton. So we have got endoskeleton. So therefore, I have written there the definition, first definition of the skeletal system. It is the framework of our body that gives us mechanical support and also protect our internal organs from the external pressures and shocks. So our organs are protected. Like for example, our heart and lung, they are protected by the ribs. So these bones protect our heart and lung. That is one example how the skeletal system helps us in protecting our organs. And it also helps us in locomotion and movement. Because these bones, the parts of the skeletal system, they are connected to the muscles, skeletal muscles, and together these two structures will help us in movements and locomotion. Okay, our endoskeleton is made up of how many bones? It is about 206 bones we have got in our body. 206 bones we have got in our body. We'll know about these bones also, what are these bones and where they are located. And then we also have few cartilages along with that. Bone is a very hard structure which is made up of calcium salts. Bone is made up of calcium salts, whereas cartilage is made up of another carbohydrate material chondrin or chondroitin material. So this chondrin material makes up the cartilage, which is softer than the bones. So actually speaking, when our body develops inside the mother's womb, the embryo first develops the complete endoskeleton, which is made up of cartilages only. And this cartilage later on is replaced by bones by deposition of calcium salts, mainly the calcium phosphate. Calcium phosphate. So our bones are made up of calcium phosphate and a protein called as ossein protein. Ossein protein. And apart from this, there are so many blood vessels and the nerves entering into the bones. So that is the structure of bone. Of course, detailed structure of bone and cartilage you have studied in the topic called as the structural organization. There he has studied the different types of tissues. Now we are taking up the skeletal system. So let us further take up the other informations which are important for this topic. So our skeletal system can be divided into two parts. One is axial skeleton and another is appendicular skeleton. Axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton. Axial skeleton means which is along the axis of the body. Axis means a line passing through the axis of the body or middle of the body. So this axial skeleton is made up of skull, the bones of the head and the face region, vertebral column or backbone, then ribs and sternum. Sternum is a breastbone in the front to which the ribs are attached in front. So skull, vertebral column, ribs and sternum together will make up what is called as axial skeleton. And the second part of our endoskeleton is the appendicular skeleton. Appendicular skeleton is on the either side of the axis. So that appendicular skeleton consists of pectoral girdle, pelvic girdle and limb bones. So pectoral girdle is the shoulder bone. On the other side we have supporting our back here and giving articulation to the bones of the hand, right? So that is the pectoral girdle. Pelvic girdle at the pelvic region, which gives the attachment for the bones of our legs and also support us in sitting posture. And this pelvic girdle is the second part of the appendicular skeleton. And then the limb bones. Limb means hands and legs. So bones of the arm and the leg, they are called as limb bones. Now actually if you take up the axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton, the total number of bones you find in the axial skeleton are 80. And the number of bones, total number of bones in the appendicular skeleton, they are about 126. So we know now that 126 plus 80, it is the total number 206 bones. Now let us know briefly about the bones in the axial skeleton. What are the bones and their number and their function? Let's take up first the axial skeleton. Okay, now let us take up first the axial skeleton. In that, skull. Our skull has got cranium. Cranium is a bony box which lodges the brain inside. Okay? Cranium is the box-like structure made up of bones and inside which our brain is located. So cranium is made up of some bones. What are those? Let us see. Cranium is made up of the bones which are called as the membrane bones because they are flat bones, flat thin bones but equally strong, that make up the most of the part of our skull or the head region. They are frontal, parietal, occipital, temporal and sphenoid. There are totally 8 bones in the cranium. There is one frontal bone that is in front of the cranium, which is forming our forehead, frontal, and then there are 2 parietals on the top of our head, joined in the center with the sutures. So 2 parietals we have, and then occipital, one occipital in the back region of our head, one occipital. There are 2 temporal bones on either side of our head, and then sphenoid, which we cannot see from inside, from the outside, so it is inside the cranium. So one sphenoid bone we have, and the another one is ethmoid. Ethmoid bone is found in the nose region, forming the, you can say, floor of the nose. So these are called as the cranial bones. So how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So total 8 bones are there in the cranium. Now let us take up the bones of our face, facial bones. Now our face has got about 14 bones. Let us see what are these. The bones of the face, they include like zygomatic bone, then maxilla, zygomatic bone, maxilla, nasal bone, lacrimal bone, nasal concave, zygomatic bone, maxilla, nasal bone, lacrimal bone, nasal concave, and mandible. So these are the facial bones or bones of our face. Let's see their number. Zygomatic bones, there are 2 zygomatic bones. They are called as the cheek bones, one on either side below the eyes, so that is called as zygomatic bone. So there are 2. Then we have the maxilla, made up of 2 bones, nasal bones, 2 nasal bone, then 2 lacrimal bones, 2 nasal concave, 1 mandible, and so how many are there now? 2 zygomatic bones, 2 maxillae. Maxillae are the upper jaws. Upper jaw is called as maxilla. Then nasal bone, which are supporting the nose, nasal bone, then lacrimals, 2 bones are there, then nasal concave, there are again 2 bones, and then one mandible. Mandible is the lower jaw. Okay, let us know about the remaining bones of the face. We have seen that zygomatic 2, maxillar 2, nasal 2, lacrimal. Lacrimal, do you remember? That is, lacrimal gland is located inside which produces tears. So on the inner sides of the eyes they are there, lacrimals. And then nasal concave. Nasal concave are coiled bones which are found inside the nasal chamber, inside the nose, so they are called as nasal concave. And then mandible, we have one mandible, one single bone which is forming our lower jaw, that is called as mandible, that gives the support for the teeth. They have got, the mandible has got the sockets in which the teeth of the lower jaw are located, whereas the maxillae, 2 maxillae which join in the middle in front, and maxillae have got the socket for the teeth of the upper jaw. So our upper jaw is made up of maxillae and the lower jaw is made up of the mandible. Okay, 2 more bones are there in our face, that is one femur and another is palatine. Palatine forms the roof of our buccal cavity. Okay, so this is how we have got total 14. Of course, femur bone is a small bone which is of not much importance in humans, but in case of the frogs, if you take up, femur bone also has got the teeth-like processes, and that help in holding the prey inside the mouth cavity. So it is located in the roof of the mouth cavity. So these are total 14 bones which are the bones of the face region. So skull has got in all 8 plus 14, 22. So now we have learned about what are those 22 bones in our skull. Okay, there are some other bones associated with our head region. They are, let us see now. Now after the skull, the bones of the skull we have seen now. That is the cranial bones we have seen, and facial bones or bones of the face we have seen. And then there are some ear ossicles. You have studied about it. We have got total 6 ear ossicles. That is, we know that there are 3 very tiny bones, the smallest bones in our body, located in the middle ear. They are malleus, incus and stapes. So we have 2 ears, so each one 2 malleus, 2 incus, 2 stapes. So total 6 ear ossicles we have. And then 1 hyoid bone we have. Hyoid bone, which is just below the lower jaw in the pharynx region, right? So that is called as hyoid bone. So together with this, now in the head region, how many we have total? 26 plus these 7. So 29 bones we have noted. Now let us see what are the bones. 29 bones are from these 80 bones. 29 bones we have seen. Now let us see the bones of the vertebral column, rib and sternum. Bones. Now let us take up the bones of vertebral column. What is vertebral column? It is nothing but our backbone. All the vertebrates, they are grouped as one group because of the backbone, a common feature in all the vertebrates. We are also coming under vertebrates. So the backbone is called as vertebral column. It is made up of, again, smaller pieces or smaller bones which are called as vertebrae. So there are total, if we take up, there are actually 33 vertebrae, but the actual bones in our backbone or in our vertebral column, actual bones are 20. That is, you minus 7 from this. How to remember? Minus 7 from this. So that is 26. Now why it is 33 vertebrae but 26 bones? We'll come to know. Let's take up one by one. So vertebral column has got vertebrae in which are in the form of string all along the backbone, starting with the cervical vertebrae in the neck region, cervical vertebrae which are there in the neck region, and then thoracic vertebrae which is in the upper part of the body, the thorax region. Okay. Next comes the lumbar vertebrae, and then sacral, and the last one, coccyx. In all the mammals, there is a common number of cervical vertebrae. We also have what? The same number, that is 7 vertebrae are there in our neck region. Right? First vertebra is called as atlas, and the second one is called as axis. Then another 5, so total 7 vertebrae we have in the cervical vertebrae. Remaining vertebrae are called as typical vertebrae. Then next, thoracic vertebrae, there are about 12 thoracic vertebrae, and lumbar vertebrae, that is 12 minus 7 you make, that is 5 lumbar vertebrae. In the lumbar region is this one, that is back of the abdomen, you can say, lumbar region, and then sacral region. Below the lumbar region there is a sacral region. Actually we have one sacral bone now, but it is formed by fusion of 5 fused vertebrae. 5 fused vertebrae make up one sacral bone in us, and then coccyx, a small curved pointed bone at the end, lower end of the backbone, that is called as coccyx. Actually that is representing highly reduced tail vertebrae. Okay, so it's a single piece but it is fused, it is formed by fusion of, you can say, 4 fused tail vertebrae. So we count these as one only because they are fused as one piece. This is also one piece. So let's count how many total bones are there in vertebral column. 7 plus 12 plus 5, 24, 25, 26. So we have got 26 bones. But actual vertebrae are 33. Why? Because see here, 5 fused vertebrae are there in the sacrum. It's also called as sacrum. Single bone, no? Sacral vertebrae we can say, or sacrum, a single bone. So fused 5, and here in coccyx fused 4 tail vertebrae. So if you count these, 5 plus 4, 9, and then 5, and all these if you count, it will be 33. Remember, sometimes in the multiple choice a question may appear that how many total bones are there in vertebral column of a developing fetus. Can you tell me how many? Yes, exactly. It is 33 vertebrae, because in a developing fetus, still these bones are not yet fused. Later on, as the fetus completely grows, we see that all these bones have fused. These sacral bones, 5 sacral bones have fused to form one sacrum, and the 4 tail vertebrae have fused to form one coccyx. So that's how the total number of bones reduces to 26. So now we have seen 26 vertebrae of the, or 26 bones I should say, 26 bones of the vertebral column. Now let us take up the other part of the axial skeleton. Okay, we have seen about the skull, we have seen about the bones of the vertebral column. Okay, now let's know about the ribs and then the sternum. Ribs are also very important, but before starting with the rib, let me tell you one more important thing about the vertebral column. Vertebral column is very important for us. It is supporting our body, our back, and it has got 4 curves. Sometimes this kind of question was asked in the previous examinations, multiple choice. This curve of the backbone is called as the cervical curvature. This is the thoracic curvature. This is lumbar curvature, and this is the sacral curvature. So our backbone has got these 4 curvatures, and these 4 curvatures have given us a upright straight posture where our head is exactly located upright in line with our body. In case of the other primates like gorillas and monkeys, we don't find these 4 curvatures. Okay? When you study about the human evolution, you might have already studied, of course, because you are the NEET batch students. We know that these 4 curvatures or the curves were missing in early humans, even up to the Neanderthal man. Later on, only in the modern man, Homo sapien, these all 4 curvatures have developed. And one more thing, these vertebrae are having in between their center, the lower portion, cushion-like cartilages, which help in some movements, which allow some movements, bending movements of our backbone. And one more thing is, each vertebra has got the canal or a opening on the dorsal side. The ventral is the solid centrum. Just for your need purpose, little more information I am giving. So if you take up a typical vertebra, So this is called as a centrum, and these are the neural plate, neural arch, or neural spines, right? Neural spine, and this is the neural canal through which the spinal cord from our brain continues. So that means the vertebral column is also giving protection and support to our spinal cord, part of our central nervous system. So let us now come to the next types of bones in our axial skeleton, ribs. So there are about 12 pairs, or 12 pairs means total 24 ribs we have. 12 one side, 12 on the other side. And these ribs are again divided into different types, like true ribs, false ribs, true ribs, false ribs, and then floating ribs. Floating ribs are also called as gorilla ribs. Okay, let's see what are these. The ribs, as I have told you, that they are located in the thoracic region. They are supporting, they are forming the cage, a protective cage for our lungs and heart. And these are the curved thin bones, flat curved thin bones. On the back side, they are connected to the vertebral column with two projections. So that's why they are called as bicephalic. Our ribs are bicephalic with two articular faces. They will be attached to the backbone, and then they curve and come in front. That is from dorsal to ventral side. Our back is called as dorsal side and our front body is called as ventral side. So from dorsal to the ventral side they come in the form of C-shaped curve, and in front they will be joining to another bone that is called as the sternum. And the joining with the sternum is with the help of a small cartilaginous part. Okay, this is the cartilage which help in articulating with the sternum. So like this, the first 7 bones, first to 7th rib, they are called as true ribs because they are articulating or they are attached to the backbone, to the vertebrae, and each pair, right, will be making contact or articulating with the bone, the backbone in the dorsal side, and on ventral side they are attached to the sternum with the help of a small cartilage. Okay, so this is following the cartilaginous joints. You are going to learn about it later on. So they are called as the true ribs. Now, what are false ribs? So let us say the rib number, the pairs, if you take up, these are in pairs, remember, first to 7 pairs, these are, that mean 7 this side, 7 this side, and then the next pair, that is 8th, 9th and 10th ribs. These pairs of ribs, I am using the word pairs because each one is in 2 number, one on right side, one on left side. So 8th, 9th and 10th pairs of ribs, they are called as false ribs because they, though articulating with the backbone in the dorsal side, but on ventral side, they are not making direct contact with the sternum. Rather, they will be attached to the articulating cartilage of the 7th rib. Suppose this is the 7th rib. This is the 7th rib, right? This is the articulating cartilage of the 7th rib. To this cartilage, the 8th, 9th and 10th, let me draw it little upside so that I can show you how they are connected. Okay, we'll use this area. So we have seen that all other one side I am showing, same this side also you will have. So first rib, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Now this is the 7th rib. Okay, and say this is all the articulating cartilaginous parts. Now I'll just fill it. So say this is the articulating part, cartilaginous part of the 7th rib. So these 7 are the true ribs. Now let us see how the false ribs are connected. We'll make use of another color for false ribs. Their cartilaginous parts are fusing with that of the 7th. The cartilaginous articulating part of the 7th rib. Yes. So we see that these 3 are articulating with the cartilage of 7th one. 8th, 9th, 10th. Back side, that is on the dorsal side, all these are connecting to the backbone, but in front there is a little difference. So these 3 are called as the false ribs, and these 7 are the true ribs. Of one side I am showing, similar set will be there on the other side. And now the last remaining ones are floating ribs, or gorilla ribs they are called as. They are 2, that is 11th and 12th pair of the rib. 11th and 12th pair of rib. So they are no doubt articulating with the backbone dorsally, but ventrally they are not connected to the sternum. They are not connected to sternum. Neither they are connected to the cartilage of 7th rib. Okay, they are totally free in front like this. Okay, let us know about the importance of these ones. All these ribs, as I have told you, which form the protective cage supporting and protecting our organs in the thorax region, but these 2, what we call them as the floating ribs, they are downward there in position. They are the last ones, and they actually protect our kidney. So they protect the kidneys from the external shocks. So that is how the ribs are located. So total we have 12 pairs of ribs, that is 24 ribs we have. So number of bones in ribs, if you take up 24 ribs we have got, and then the sternum, only one piece of bone it is, also called as the breastbone in front. Now let us make the total. So if you add it up, it is totaling up to 80. So 80 bones are there in the axial skeleton. Now we will take up the appendicular skeleton.